Have you seen my guns? Pew! Hey guys, welcome to Flern. My name is Aaron Nace. Find me on the Twitter at AKNacer. I got a cool couple of guns here. These things are really cool. They are for a photo shoot that we're going to be doing later today. You guys are going to be able to see the results for it coming up soon, and I can't wait. We got these from a cool prop shop here in Chicago. If you guys are from a small town, you can look at ordering props from a big place, or you can make a little travel, or you just move to LA or Chicago or New York. They have cool prop stores where you can rent stuff like this. We're gonna have a sick shoot today. I'm super excited, but that's not what today's episode is about. We're doing some really cool stuff. We're gonna be showing you some advanced techniques for removing elements. I'm gonna explain a little bit about lighting, and then we're gonna be enhancing this image and really causing the lights to really come to life and make the image a lot better in the end. So let's get into it. I can't wait. This is Glenn, and this is, I think it's our final image with Glenn, DJ Dolo. You guys have been, if you've been following Flern, you've seen him a number of times here on Flern, because we did a whole big shoot and we got a lot of really great content out of it with a lot of great teaching points. So let's just talk about this guy first, and then we'll just kind of talk about everything we need to know here in the image, and then we'll go ahead and get to editing. All right, so let's choose a nice color. Pink is good. And let's talk about the light and why we lit this and how we lit this. So this was back in like a hallway, and here's a door to leave the building. This is the theater. If you guys remember the image where he's like lighting a match, that was taken right inside of there. So this is back in a hallway, and it was really dark in here. But the one cool thing that it had was this green exit sign. This was actually the color of the exit sign. It had a green light behind it, and that's anytime you can find something like that in an image, it can bring a lot of interest into the photograph itself, and then you can kind of play that up. So it had that green light. Now we photographed, this is with a 35mm 1.4 lens, and we're shooting right at about 1.4. That way he's going to be in focus and our background's going to be nice and out of focus. So we're shooting with a 35-1.4, and we did get some light from this from the exit sign here onto Glenn, but we didn't get quite a bit. We didn't get enough, really. So what we wound up doing is adding this. This is an Einstein here, and it's gelled green gel. Probably didn't need to write that out, but we do keep a box of gels. We bring them on every photo shoot because you never know what you're going to need. And this has got a grid on it, so it's got like a 40-degree spot grid, which is going to make sure the light is kind of like just shining in this way, and it's also got a green gel on it. What this is going to do is it's kind of going to duplicate and create a little bit even stronger light. That's going to give us this nice rim. Let's just create a new layer. So a rim light is, this light that's kind of like carving right around our subject. You can see that nice green edge there, here on his hands and everything like that. And it's just like a really cool, interesting way to add like a little bit, an extra light source into an image and just a little bit more interest. Now, the best thing to do in this case, I feel anyway, is to match the light that's already in the scene. So instead of like popping like a blue gel and like going off at a crazy angle, that stuff usually looks really fake. It doesn't look natural. It's like, well, where did that light come from? If you can find a light like this, that's, this exit sign that actually is there, it actually is green, and then just enhances a little bit more, usually you're gonna wind up with like a really cool image. Now, I couldn't put this green light off to the camera left here, and just like shine it into his face because it wouldn't be coming into the same angle. So that promotes a problem. We have to put a light here in the shot. We've got a light stand and everything. So we need to get rid of this. And that's what Photoshop is for. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So that's what today's episode is all about, getting rid of that stuff. So let's just kind of create a little bit of a plan. Okay. Clone stamping is generally what I would do, especially when you have a large area like this. It's really pretty out of focus, so it's not too hard to do. But let's start off with our clone stamp. So we're going to zoom in here, and I'm going to, on my new layer, I'm going to hit S for my clone stamp. Just be sure you're here where it says sample, click on all layers, and that's going to make sure it's going to sample this layer and the ones below it. All right, we'll make a nice large brush, and then I'm going to hold Alt or Option, sample outside here, right there in the black, and then I'm just going to start painting right over top of here. You could use a brush tool for this sort of thing if you wanted. I'm going to stick with a clone stamp because we don't really need like the detail and things like that. It's just kind of like, getting rid of that bit of area. Let's just get rid of that little halo there too. Pretty easy. I think anyone could do that. So when you have other details like here in the door and stuff like that, it just gets a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to start a new layer, and we're just going to start it kind of doing the same thing again. So sampling right over here. Now the cool trick is if you're holding Alt or Option and sample this area, you can hold down So I'm going to click there, Alt or Option, click there, and then I'm going to bring my cursor over here, but now I'm going to hold down the Shift key. So still on Alt or Option, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and we're going to see a little preview of what we're actually going to be clone stamping. Let's just go a little bit bigger here, and we're going to see a preview of what we're going to clone stamp. Let's maybe go a little bit smaller. So sample there, and then we've got the preview. Now, some people are going to have this preview up by default. If you don't want that up, and I don't suggest having it up by default. I don't really like it. You can do whatever you want, but go to Window, down to Clone Source, and then there's this Show Overlay button. And this is just going to put it on all the time. So like you could sample there, and it's going to show you what it's going to look like. Sample there, it'll show you what it's going to look like. I don't always want this on. Sometimes it's pretty annoying. So I uncheck that, and then I'll just hold down Alt or Option as well as Shift when I want to see that. All right, so we're going to start off from the left and just go to the right, and then we're going to kind of come in from the right and go to the left. I'm going to lower my flow to about 60%. That's just going to put like a little bit less of this down. It's going to just, you know, kind of not as much is going to show up, basically. Now, anytime you guys are doing this, you're gonna wind up with something basically like what I'm winding up with here. It's not going to look that smooth. It's going to look a lot less smooth than you would probably like it. And the reason is because, you know, you've got a lot of color and light variation going on here, and it's not really that easy to account for it. So like, obviously this looks like something has been clone stamped out, right? Well, you know, you don't really want that. So I'm going to show you guys a way to kind of fix that in just a second. So we're going to start off with clone stamping, but then we're going to bring in another technique that's going to kind of fix that. All right, there we go. And if you find you're putting down too much ink, like if it's, you know, if it doesn't look like it's blending in naturally, lower your flow, and you can do that by hitting Shift and any of the numbers on your keyboard. Shift 5, for instance, will lower the flow of your clone stamp to 50%. There we go. For this, we're going to do that same thing. I'm going to hold Alt or Option, sample right there, and then I'm going to hold in the Shift key, and then I can see right where it's going to paint, and I can make sure it's going to match up with both on the left or the right, and there we don't have to like make that a guessing game. We could just kind of match that. All right, we're going to do the same thing. Here we go, and paint right over there. All right, looking pretty good. We got a little bit of a seam there, but not too bad. All right. I would recommend spending a little bit more time than this if you're doing this sort of thing, and you want it to turn out pretty nice. Okay, so we've effectively gotten rid of our light sand. However, it doesn't really look that great, does it? It's like, this is like, you could have done a better job there. But we at least have it gone. So what I would do now is kind of come in with a brush tool and clean up that job. So we're going to create a new layer, Shift Option Command N. We're going to grab our brush tool, B for the brush tool, hold this Alt or Option key, and I'm going to sample this color right over here. Now I'm going to choose a very nice soft edge brush. Okay, you can right click and bring your hardness all the way down to 0, and then you can change your size there. All right, there we go, and we'll just undo that. So a very soft edge brush and a low flow. We're going to bring our flow to about like 10 or 20%. So Shift 2 will bring out 20%. And what we're going to do is sample this color right out there, and then I'm just going to paint right over top of it. And I'm going to do this quite a bit. Sample and paint over. Sample and paint over. Now, you got to kind of be careful when you do this technique, because obviously this is like a door in the background that's incredibly out of focus, right? So it's like, it's pretty okay to just grab a paintbrush and paint colors, right? And I'm sampling a lot, by the way. Sample here, paint a little bit, sample there, paint a little bit more, sample there, paint a little bit more. Just kind of like make everything blend in. So back to what I was talking about earlier, obviously this is like a great candidate for, hey, can you in fact just grab a paintbrush and do this? And you totally can, especially when you're working with an area that's like so, you know, it's just like a large out of focus area, just like this door here. If it were more in focus, you'd have to create a smaller paintbrush and really like get in and paint all your details. You know, something like this door handle, if you wanted to do that, what I would do is zoom in there, and then we're gonna lower our brush size, sample this color, and then I can kind of create a harsh edge there, sample that dark, and then kind of come in with that as well. All right, we're gonna do the same thing here. You'd be amazed at what you can do with the brush tool. Don't let anyone tell you that it's not one of the most important and powerful tools in Photoshop, because it really is just a, you know, just a great tool. All right, And grain and things like that, I wouldn't worry about that, especially if you're this far away from an image. If you did need to add it back, you could always go to filter, noise, and here to add noise. Then you would just change your layer to, I'll just show you how to do it. Why not? Create a new layer, fill that with 50% gray, Shift Delete to go to your fill dialog, go to filter, noise, add noise. Hit OK, and then change this from a normal to a soft light layer. There we go. And that's going to add you some noise. We'll just lower the opacity of that quite a bit, and then you got noise right over top of wherever you painted. So you don't have to do that most of the time. I'm going to delete that, and you'll see it's going to look just fine. But if you do want to do that sort of thing, now you know how to do it. All right, and we're almost done there. So the clone stamp tool did most of our work, and then I just came in and kind of finessed everything with the brush tool. So let's just shift click all those layers, hit Command G, and we'll group those together, and then let's just see the before and the after. So oftentimes you'll want to take another photograph with this with the light stand and the light out of there. Sometimes that's going to affect the actual lighting of your image, so it might not always be a simple case of like taking two images and mask coats on it. If you're interested in how to do that, type in the search bar, type in Under the Bridge, because we've got a great episode on how to do exactly that. But in this case, we have, actually, you know what? And I'll just link to that episode below. How's that? So you don't have to search for anything. What? We're so nice and generous. By the way, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you're not going to get that. So make sure you watch it on flern.com. Okay, so here's before and the after. We're just removing that light stand, and you can see that's really not too difficult to do, just using the clone stamp tool. And we've got a really cool image. It's just like, you know, this is an actual DJ. He produces music, and really cool guy. So he's like standing by the exit sign. He's got a bottle of water, like little prop, just kind of creates a little bit of story. So now what I want to do, I'm going to grab the brush tool, and I'm going to hold Alt or Option again. And we're just going to sample this color, like a darker color there. And here at about 20% opacity, I'm just going to kind of like paint in like that. And then we're going to sample lighter color and paint in like that, something like that. Why not? We're going to create like a little bit of a glow going on around this light here. All right, that's pretty intense glow. Way brighter than I want it to be, but that's what opacity is for, right? Okay, cool. So there's a glow, and we're going to change this from normal down to lighten. So obviously we don't want the glow to like darken things, right? It's supposed to be light. And then we'll just lower our opacity. There we go. Cool, looking good. Now I am getting a little bit like an artifact here from where I clone stamped earlier. You can actually see that there. If you want to make sure you don't get that, here's a cool check for you. I'm going to make this layer invisible. We're going to grab another adjustment layer. I'm going to go to curves. It's so dark in there. I didn't see that it was doing that, by the way. So I'm going to grab this curves adjustment layer and go right up. There we go. And what this is doing is basically just making everything brighter. So now what I can do is I can do another clone stamp layer under that. So a new layer under this curves adjustment layer. This is just brightening everything so I can see it. A new layer under that. I'm going to change this clone stamp to current and below, so it's not going to sample this light. It's just going to sample here and below. And then I can kind of take care of this with like a nice soft edge brush. So I'm clone stamping away those like hard edges there. So same technique. S for the clone stamp, sample, and then paint away. We're just painting in with a softer edge here. So it should help when it comes to actually, like, you know, where we're lightening things above it. It won't be brightening the fact that I clone stamped with a hard edge brush earlier. All right, if you wanted to do this from the get-go, not a bad idea. You could just do this from the get-go. All right. Cool, looking pretty good. We're almost done here, taking care of our light. There we go. So clone stamping. And this layer, again, it's only brightening things up so I can see what I'm doing, and then you just make it back invisible. This layer, because I was clone stamping set to current to below, did not sample what was going on with this layer. Just delete that layer out, make this one back visible, and voila. We've fixed our problem because the area that was under it is just a little bit better now. Pretty cool. Cool stuff, not gonna lie. I'm digging it. And we'll just lower our opacity. There we go, something like that. Looks great. Okay, now I kind of want to bring this red in as well because green and red look pretty good together. So we'll just do that with a curves adjustment layer. Curves, and I'm going to go over here my red channel. I'll just kind of pull that up a little bit. Let's go to our blue and pull that down a little bit so we'll get like more of a orangish red. All right, and then here with my brush tool, I'm just going to paint white on that layer mask, and that's going to help bring that red in. There we go. Looking pretty good. So there we can see, just kind of like pumping that up a little bit. All right, cool. Now what we're going to do, let's just shift click and group those. We're just going to do some work changing our colors, our lights and our darks, drawing a little bit more attention to him, a little bit less attention to the theater down here, and then we'll be done. So pretty quick, not too bad, just showing you some great ways to remove some objects in the images that you need to. All right, let's grab a curves adjustment layer, drag that down a bit, because I want to take attention away from this area here. I don't really need it to be, you know, right over there. I want to make sure we're looking here at our subject, right? Grab another curves adjustment layer, and we're going to click and drag this up a little bit. There we go. Hit Command I on that, and then we're going to paint this, you know, right here where our subject is. All right. Now, kind of washed him out a little bit too, right? You can see there's not much color in there. So if you want to fix that a little bit, you can try to do so. Let's just try bringing our reds up just a little bit, and let's bring our blues down a little bit. That's going to introduce like an orange color, and skin is inherently orange, depending on how much orange or how little orange you get in it. The pigment in our skin is all orange. It's just some people get more or less. All right, so that's kind of brightening it up, but also, you know, working with our working with the color as well. I'm going to take the saturation down a bit on the image itself. There we go. And then what we're going to do on top of everything, let's just grab a levels adjustment layer. And I'm going to work on my different color channels. We'll pull some reds into our shadows, and then some cyans into our highlights. There we go. Let's go to our blue channel, pull some blues into our shadows, maybe some yellows into our highlights there. Yeah, a little bit less blues. I kind of like it, you know, here in the mix of having that green in there. And then I can really pull this and like drag this towards green. We'll get even more of that effect, or I could drag it more towards magenta. We'll get a little bit more of a natural effect going on there. All right, so we can see our colors just kind of getting fixed a little bit better with that levels adjustment layer. And then if you want to, I'm just going to grab a brush tool, paint with white on a new layer, and I'm just going to paint right over our subject here. Looks pretty good. We're going to double click here on our layer mask. Sorry, just right here to the right of your layer. And I'm going to hold Alt or Option and tell this layer to not be visible where the underlying layer is lighter. And there we go. And we'll get a little bit of a highlight on the skin. And then we can change this layer to something like a soft light. Hit OK. And there we go. We've just got like a little bit of a highlight. Just going to help him kind of like stand out from the background just a bit more. All right. Very cool. And let's see. Our hue saturation. I'm like looking. This is one great thing to do there. All right. Stop focusing on Photoshop for a second. A great thing to do, once you've edited this, you've added curves and levels and all kinds of things like that, you're going to get to a point where sometimes you're like, yeah, it's still not right. What I would recommend doing is going back through your layers again and turning some of those off and on. They might have actually been making your image worse instead of better. Happens all the time, happens to me every single time I'm in Photoshop. So don't be stressed out if you do that too, because I've been using Photoshop for some time and I still do it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to turn off this hue saturation adjustment layer, and I'm like, you know what? I like it a little bit more before. I like it with it saturated. So I'm just going to leave that on there. And this curves adjustment layer, I think it could come down in opacity just a bit as well. All right, that looks pretty good. If you're still not totally happy with how your colors are looking, color balance can be a great tool, and you can just play with your midtones. I wouldn't suggest going with your shadows or highlights. Play with your midtones, and you can kind of work with your midtones here a little bit to bring them, there we go, to bring them to a level that you actually like. Brought a little more yellow in there. I think that's looking a lot better. All right, let's just shift click all those, shift click and hit Command G. We'll turn that before and the after there. There we go. So we're just bringing a lot more attention right to our subject there. Cool. And you can just lower the opacity of your entire group. You're like, if you want, you know, somewhere in the middle, do that and you're good to go. There we go, guys. That's the end of our episode. So we used a really great function, clone stamp tool, along with the brush tool to get rid of that light stand that was back there. Then we showed you a really cool technique on how to actually like make a curve adjustment layer, bring it on a little bit brighter so you could see what's underneath it. Use your clone stamp on current and below, and then you can take care of some of those things that you couldn't see there in the darkness. So here's our before and our after with this image. Very cool. Didn't take a ton of time, and we got rid of a light stand. Nice and easy. Guys, thanks so much for watching Flearn. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. and I will shoot you later with a camera, not with a gun. You know what they called me in high school? Aaron.